Hey everybody, as promised, I am here with Manny Wolfe, and in case you forget his name or mine, they are both right under our faces in the pictures.
You can just look right there
That's
and
right.
and then you'll know.
So I gave a little bit of a spoiler in my last update that we were coming on live here
Hmm.
about Manny being born into a cult and overcoming drug addiction and all these things. But he will be able to tell you about that in a much more interesting way than I can. But before we get started, I want to tell you how I met him. Um, I don't even know if he remembers.
No, I don't.
No?
I don't. I do not remember. Plus, I want to hear it from you anyway.
Okay. So he did a live in Richard Fletcher's group, which
Ah,
is
yes.
somebody that I was working with to learn copywriting, another business coach. And I was so intrigued by his live that I instantly messaged him and signed up for his group coaching like
Hmm.
within 10 minutes. But the thing that really got me intrigued is in one of our first conversations, he mentioned Mark Knopfler, and I love Mark Knopfler, and nobody ever knows who he is. And I'm not even going to say who he is um, because if you don't know, you don't know.
That's right. And you probably shouldn't know.
Right.
At this point, he doesn't need any more fans. He's doing just fine. Thank you.
That's right. But if you do know who Mark Knopfler is and you like him, you are my people. So Manny, I knew was my people right away.
Ah,
Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to turn it over here for a minute and let Manny tell us who he is and what he's all about.
what do you want to know specifically? What would best serve this
Um,
motley assortment of people that are going to be watching this?
so you are currently a business coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell us a little story, maybe a somewhat shortened version of how you
Hmm.
got to this point in your life.
Yeah, that's actually one of the stories I like telling now. It's sort of like old hat for me to tell the stories of growing up and everything, although I always do it because people like it. But how I got here was I, there's this great moment I like to reflect on. And it's funny because my wife and I don't agree exactly how it played out. But because I had such just a wild life, I got really good later at using the stories from my life to like casually mentioning the time I almost died and things like that. One of the times, and I got really good at like just whipping these stories out all casually and watching people go and get white faced and well, so it really worked well. It was like a really good way to get attention, and I tried that on we were just starting maybe within the first year of knowing each other, and I tried to pull one of those on her, and it just like didn't work. It totally just fell flat. And she just looked at me and she's like, you have to write a book. You have to write the story of your life. And I was kind of taken aback, and I told her, I said, well, I had always thought about doing that, but I always said that I would do it after I created some success. And she said something to me that has really stuck with me ever since, which was, she said, considering how you were born, how you were raised, what you went through, just the fact that you're not dead or in jail is success. Just the fact that you're trying your hardest to be a good parent and a productive member of society is success. And I literally had never thought about it that way before. I thought I thought my life story had to be like from being born in a cult and all this stuff to CEO or something.
Right.
And she made a great point, and she did it in this. She is a very, very unassuming person, and she's just sort of honest and simple and direct. And she just nailed me with that. And I found that I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I literally went home that day and started writing my memoir. And then really just like didn't stop until it was done. It's probably about an 8-month process for me.
Wow.
Yeah. my goal was if I can get 2 pages a night,
Mm-hmm.
that was sort of how I looked at it. 2 good pages a night that don't need a lot of editing. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're going to go write your memoir now out of inspiration, set yourself a 2 pages a day goal, but don't expect to hit it, because sometimes you'll get 6, 10, 12, and other times you won't get anything. But it's a good goal.
That's a good piece of advice, because I was sitting here thinking, I'm always saying I've got to save this for my book that I'm going to write someday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love for someone to talk to me about the process of figuring out how to write 330 pages on the same topic, because that was harder than the writing itself, was figuring out how to do it.
Yeah.
But once I finished the book, I still thought that I didn't realize how much the world had changed. I thought I was literally going to just mail off my manuscript 100 times until somebody finally accepted it. Mm-hmm. And those days are gone. Like, they don't exist anymore, Mm-hmm. And in that process, I wound up getting to speak with an editor or a vice president or something at, I feel like it was Penguin Books. So somehow I got this 15-minute call with this high-level mucky muck, and
your business card said.
Yeah, high-level mucky. He just, the first question out of his mouth was, "How big is your audience?" And I didn't even know what he was talking about. That's how far I was then from where I am now. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't know. He says, "Well, you have to have an audience. You got to build a platform." And I said, "What does that mean?" He said, "Well, you have to, he explained to me. He literally explained to me basically how social media works." And so I said, "Well, how are people doing that?" And he said, "Well, podcasts are a really good way to do that." So, okay. All right. So I decided I would start a podcast, and I figured, well, if I'm going to start a podcast, I better figure out what it's going to be sort of positioning me as. And I started off wanting to be a men's coach, because I had a book. I had all this experience of overcoming these crazy challenges and all that stuff. And like so many of us, that was my introduction to the world of online marketing and social media marketing, and just realizing that it doesn't matter how good you think what you do is. If you don't have marketing, you're effed.
Very true.
Yeah. And it wasn't like, oh, let me just switch to marketing. It was more of, I just felt like a rat in a maze, just running around to this webinar and that download and this thing and that thing. And over time, realizing this is all BS. This is all just a bunch of manipulative, dead end, upsell crap. Mm-hmm. And coming to an inflection point where it's like, I remember talking to my wife too, and saying like, I can't figure out how to get clients. I can't figure out how to get customers. Do I go back to house painting? There in the beginning.
Right. I mean, it's a legitimate question.
Yeah. In the beginning, we had that conversation a lot, and that's why if you know me at all, I rail against those, the claims and the inferences and the suggestions of easy money, because you need to get a grip. You need a serious come to Jesus if you think that you can just jump on social media or the internet and make easy money. Hell no. Mm-hmm. It's as hard as any other way to make a lot of money. It takes work.
Yeah. It's not harder. Almost.
If not, yeah. For those of us raised in the era of brick and mortar, like, have you ever noticed, Allison, how a lot of people have at least a basic understanding, even if they've never done it, of what being in business means in the conventional sense, right? Mm-hmm. They know you need to know about this and that and the other thing. Well, when you get online, it's like that, but all the things you need to know are different.
Yeah.
And about 80% of it is marketing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely, I thought when I started a business, I thought I knew what it was all about, and I didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
As it turns out.
I'm still just, like talking to someone yesterday, a client of mine. I'm helping her write her signature speech. And she's talking about all this stuff she's doing with internet marketing, to try to figure it out. And like, she was so overwhelmed. I didn't have the heart to tell her, yeah, you're falling for, all of these sort of things that people fall for.
I will say that along the journey, I have seen some of those bogus things, but I have so far been lucky enough not to fall for, I don't think anyway. I've had 3 coaches and all of them have been really good.
Yeah.
Not scammers and not trying to sell me some quick fix thing. But
that
is rampant out there.
Yeah. And then that's a very unusual path to take. Like in the beginning with me, I mean, I was just downloading everything and doing all the challenges and like just running around, like I said, like a rat in a maze and not really making any progress. And so little by little, I came to that inflection point where I said, I'm just going to figure this out myself. I'm going to figure out how to do this. So I don't have to keep, like falling for it with the gurus. And so little by little, this was back when it was actually considered ethical and kind of cool to go into a new group and check with the group admin or the group leader and say, is it cool if I give people a free 15-minute call to, whatever. And that was lead gen,
Yeah.
The audience has become so sophisticated since then that you'll get kicked out of groups for doing that now. And
yeah, I got kicked out of one the other day for asking people to take a free survey.
Yeah.
Oh well.
So little by little, I just sort of started piecing it together, and I remember like at one point having a conversation with somebody who I was going to speak at her event, and we were talking about copywriting and that part of marketing. And I said, do you think it's possible? Do you think like the world is ready for just like copy that's just not ridiculous, not full of shit, not overly hyperbolic and with these ridiculous promises? And this was a seasoned 7-figure earning successful entrepreneur. And she's like, I don't know. I'm not sure it is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, fast forward from there, it turns out it is, or it has become that way. Like you can be honest now. I don't know if you could have 5 years ago. I think that nobody would have listened. But anyway, the question was, how did I get from there to here?
Mm-hmm.
As I started experimenting with, trying to figure out organic stuff, I would just talk about it. The first money I made online actually was giving voice coaching. Thought that was pretty funny. I released my podcast and nobody was messaging me going, great podcast, love your content. But people started messaging me saying, can you teach me how to sound like you?
Oh, with your like your radio voice and your lower voice.
Yeah, with the radio voice and everything. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, you bet your ass I can. I could teach you anything you want.
Well, I went through the abbreviated version of your voice training, and what I use it for is when my son has on his selective hearing.
Oh yeah.
And he doesn't hear me calling for him or saying something, then I remember like, oh yeah, stand up straight, lower my voice an octave, and then he hears me.
Yeah, suddenly, yeah.
You need to do like a parenting seminar of how to get your kids to hear you.
There you go.
Not listen, but
so, yeah, I mean, I went from teaching people how to have a powerful voice that led naturally into training speakers, public speakers. Mm-hmm. And it hadn't occurred to me when I first came into the space, but I have a lot of experience between public speaking, between performance, and between acting. So I kind of put all those things together to create a program on public speaking. The public speaking led to storytelling. The storytelling led to, what did that lead to? Oh, I had this, like, I was working out at the gym one day and I suddenly just saw it all in my head. Oh my God, I know how I can get, speakers booked to speak. I had this whole idea and I put it together and I started selling it like crazy. And that led to, then people started seeing me as sort of a lead gen guy, because I was like getting people booked to speak. And one thing led to another. And so the getting people booked to speak turned into getting people to raise their hands on social media. And that was the process. It's been very, very, the opposite of a straight line.
Well, I think that's kind of the way that most things go. Fitness journeys, professional journeys, all of it. It's never a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another thing that we're sort of sold that doesn't really match reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
You grow up, you get a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, you get married, you have children, you get a job, you buy a house, you do all these things in this order, but that is definitely not how it happens for most people.
Warning, results may be different.
Yes, results may vary wildly.
Results may vary.
So at this point in your life, what do you consider for yourself as success?
God, that's funny that we're talking about that right now, because if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I'm at a bit of an existential crossroads right now. So certainly this is the most success I've ever had and the best success I've ever had. While I am not, like a ballin' out internet rock star, I am literally living a life that most people would envy and want to have for themselves. I make good money. It varies from month to month. I don't work very much, which, just a little like side note on that, that's a blessing and a curse for all you guys watching. It's if you have this like idea that you would love to make tons of money without working very much, careful what you ask for. Because I mean, if you're anything like me, it's like, because we live in the suburbs and because we've my wife and I have created this nice little home together. I spend a lot of time. I spend more time than I'm comfortable with not being productive, because what I now know is that I need to put myself up against responsibility. You know what I mean? I need to put myself up against challenges. And that's where the existential crossroads has come in. It's like, what am I going to do? Am I going to find something else to do in addition to what I do now? Am I going to figure out a way to expand what I do now so that it challenges me more? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because really, I'm not religious, but idle hands are the devil's playthings for sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because if you think about, for me, a day where I have 3 different meetings that are out of the house and I have to go somewhere and I have to get this done, those are the days where I get the most done.
Yeah.
Versus the days where I have nothing planned out of the house and I have the whole day, and in the morning I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get this and this and this, and those are the days when I end the day thinking, oh, total disappointment. I didn't do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because I had too much time to do it, I guess.
It's a weird thing. Yeah, it's a really weird phenomenon. Mm-hmm. I think of that guy Jordan Peterson, who is such a polarizing figure. But he says some really cool things, and one of the things that he says is, and I'm paraphrasing here, so I may get this wrong. He says the purpose of life is to shoulder up under a difficult burden. And I first heard that, I was like, this guy's a wingnut. That's crazy talk. But the more I think about it, it's like, what he's saying there that holds true for me is like, that's where the best of us comes out.
Yeah.
You know,
I would completely agree with that.
Yeah. And I think that by and large, we've been sold an idea of a life of leisure, which I've had it. Like I've had it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I had it before I sort of entered society.
Yeah.
And so I had it as an irresponsible, like Peter Pan syndrome, drug addict, little, you know, wannabe rock star, but I didn't do much. It was always just party, party, party. And,
So,
yeah.
Hitting on that, then when you were back in that phase, what would have you considered success to be?
I thought I was living it. I thought
Yeah.
you know, the only thing that would have been better for me was if somehow $10 million dropped in my lap and I could have had you know, like a convertible Ferrari.
Yeah.
Never really putting together that if the universe had decided to give me $10 million, I would have killed myself with it.
Right. That was my actual first thought there. Drugs.
Yeah.
You know,
I would have overdosed on cocaine that I did off a stripper's backside. You know.
That reminds me of when my group was called Money Matters Made Simple, I asked a question, you know, what would you do if you had an unlimited amount of money? And most people would answer, you know, that they would do good, they would whatever, help their families.
Right.
And one guy said, I would buy a bunch of hookers and blow. The one truthful person.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, truth in advertising.
Oh my gosh.
So back then, success for me was, I mean, I just ran around with my friends, drinking and partying every single day. I seldom worked. And if I did, it wasn't for very long. I chased girls and stayed out in the sunshine all the time. And back then that was success. That was like it. Now, I don't know. Success has to do with meaning and fulfillment, but that becomes a really nuanced topic too, for me at least, because and people always get upset when I say this, but I don't feel necessarily connected to any sort of big meaning. That rankles the entrepreneurial crowd. They don't like hearing that.
So you mean as far as your business goes or your life in general?
Business, life, what I'm doing here, that has never been something that I felt like, you know, I'm in the file of like things that entrepreneurs talk about. There's that, you know, big mission, big purpose, showing up fully 100%. None of that makes any sense to me. None of that has any real meaning to me. I mean, I've turned from a person who was not a great person into a person with a very sort of strong moral compass and a strong ethical sense. And it is essential to me that I make my money and go through life doing more good than bad and things like that. Those things are important to me. But I don't think I've ever felt any of that like lofty, like I get up at 6 a.m. every day pumped because I know I'm living my purpose. No, you don't. No, you don't. You get up at 6 a.m. every day because you're a psychopath or because you have to, or you're just an early riser, you know, or possibly you brainwashed yourself into only having positive filters for life. That's possible too. But yeah. So that makes success a little bit more of a nebulous idea. If you don't have, you know, it's easy to say that you have a definition for success if you have like this sense that you have a mission, this sense that you have a calling, you know. But to me, that stuff, for every person, for every 100 people that say it, and for every 1,000 people that say it, I feel like maybe one really has it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the rest of us are just trying to sort of, you know, figure out, figure out a life better than the life we're trying to improve on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting that you're talking about this, because I was listening to your interview with Jackie Gold last night, and she definitely seemed to have a very clear purpose of why she does what she does.
Yeah.
She had a rough childhood, and she wanted to become a teacher, so she had a teacher that helped her when she was young. And I was thinking, as I was listening to that, I don't know that I have a purpose that is anywhere near that noble with anything that has to do with my work. But with some of the volunteer activities I do, I have more of a purpose with that.
I think Jackie might be the 1 in 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she is very atypical in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it genuinely is like that for her, but I also feel like Jackie is one of those people who, no matter what she did, she's thorough, she's thoughtful, she's diligent. You know, she'd do well at whatever she did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's got a good work ethic. She's intelligent.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's hard for me. Success is just like really, I think, living in alignment with those things that are important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if success is the ultimate thing to strive for. Let me be clear. once you've gotten over a couple things like struggling for money.
Yeah.
Once you get over that, because if you're struggling for money, then success and money should be, and hopefully are, lockstep with each other.
Yes. For sure.
You know, I would not have been able to say this when I had no money. It would have been like, you know, money is my success. This income level is success for me, 100%. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, like I don't make millions and millions of dollars, you know, but I make hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And even, yeah, I almost feel like we should do a whole other talk on success.
Yeah.
Because it's like for me, it's such a nuanced conversation. There are so many facets to it. But I think I'm living a version of what most people would consider success right now. And
I would say so, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that through having achieved that, maybe I'm at this sort of this crossroads, as I said, just because it's like once you get one thing and you stay there for a while, you know, the need for the next thing, whatever it is, sort of comes up. And I think that's why I'm at that existential point of like, I don't even know what success means, because I'm evaluating all of these things that you're foolish to be evaluating before you get your basic needs met.
Right.
Yeah.
And for me, so you really never worked in the corporate world, right? You were in construction or house painting, construction before. Yeah. Coming from the corporate world, the amounts of money that I hear people like you and other online people who are successful financially blows out of the water most of the big wigs that you would call them in the corporate world. You're making a lot more money, working a lot less. If you travel, it's because you want to, and it's somewhere fun. You're not going to Cleveland to make some pitch in the middle of the winter and, you know, missing out on all your kids' activities. So when you look at it from that point of view, which is very realistic for the majority of people in the United States, at least, then, you know, your success level looks different with that lens on it, I guess would be.
I agree. And it's actually making me realize that like my whole life has been so far from the conventional path that it's like you can't even really compare me to those sort of conventional ideas of success. Because I mean, yeah, it just wasn't my choice, but I took a very different path. Right. So actually, I really like the idea of exploring success more deeply. the idea, the definition, what it means to different people. Yeah, because like really, it's funny. I definitely have like this like sense of like creeping ennui, you know. But I think that it's sort of like that is the payoff for having gotten to a certain level. Right. I don't have to worry about food and shelter and you know, rainy day money and stuff like that anymore. And so now it's like I get the privilege of asking these sort of more abstract questions of myself. Mm-hmm. I think maybe that's a good way to think of it. Like for instance, for me, is there something that would inspire me as a mission? I don't even know, if I'm being honest. I don't even know. I like the work I do. I like helping people.
As an outsider, I would say that your mission, if I were to assign a mission to you that you would be inspired by, it would be to work at or volunteer or open a Chihuahua rescue.
Yeah, I feel like that would be gratifying. Mm-hmm. like former child star Chihuahuas.
Yes, they're not too old to be in movies, and they're just running around breaking their paws, and Manny is here to help.
Yeah, I could easily spend the rest of my life working with dogs. 100%. That is true. I could have like some crazy cabin in the woods with a huge kennel behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
You can be the anti-dog whisperer, since you're kind of the anti-guru in your business.
Yeah.
Although I always kind of like the dog whisperer, but I thought I read something the other day about something coming out about him that wasn't good. I don't know.
I hope not, man. He's like one of the last like pure souls in the world. You know? Please don't let him be a weirdo.
No, there can't be anything wrong with the dog whisperer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And look at now I've given you a new idea of what to do with your idle time.
Right. I will share this. There's something that really calls to me, something that's really appealing about, and this is so funny, I never thought I'd say this, but about a non-internet business, like a physical brick and mortar business. You know, people watching will not know this, but you'll know it. I have a coffee brand that I'm developing, and I have what I think is a pretty cool idea for how to make it like physical locations and not just like an online brand. I'm not going to share that here, but suffice to say, it's a little different than what's typical. And I like that idea of taking what I've always been interested in branding, and marketing have been things that have fascinated me. And I would love to be able, at least it seems now sitting here, like it would be very compelling to be able to build up a physical brand in the real world, you know, versus just like, I guess what I do now is more like personal brands, help you get clients through what amounts to personal branding. Yeah. So I really like that idea. Now, would that rise to the level of mission or calling? It's hard to say. I'd have to do it first.
Well, when you think about, sorry, my window is so nice here. I had to have my window open, but now there's a loud person out there. When you think about maybe the actual work that you're doing isn't on its own a mission, but the people like me that you're helping, that I want to be home for when the school's closed 5 weeks of the year or whatever, and I want to be able to be successful and contribute income, and I'm floundering around, not sure what I'm doing. So you're helping keep me on track and keep me successful with that. And you're doing that with how many other people, then that is a mission on its own, that you're helping all these other people who would otherwise
Yeah.
fail or give up on their dreams.
Yeah. I guess the thing that I'm experiencing is I think when people talk about mission and calling, they paint it in these sort of in these hues that just aren't real for me. I do think it's like I said, I like my work, and I think my work has service and nobility and value in it. Um, but it never just like, for instance, to use the old like axiom, like I never jump out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning super stoked just because of the work I do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. So
I
I
mean,
never
does
have that
anybody,
level. I never have that sense of mission that people brag about all the time. I'm fired up. I'm working 16 hours a day. Can't stop when you've got a mission and blah, blah, blah. Like none of that is me. None of that is me.
no. And you know, when I guess for me, I kind of ignore when people say that, or my eyes skip over it because I
Yeah.
don't believe it.
Yeah. Same.
You
Same
might,
here.
you maybe could have 1 week or 2 weeks tops where you were super excited about something coming out, so you're all fired up, and then after that, you can't sustain that level of excitement for much longer.
Yeah. So that's sort of my non-answer to how I define success now.
You sit around and ponder, what is it? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I really don't. I mean, other than the sort of baseline stuff, I know that I would like to have enough money that I could play at a higher level. And when I say play, I mean like creatively. One of the things I'd very much like to be doing in my life is somehow working with, like, I don't know if it's building homes, like which by which I mean paying to have them built.
Right.
I don't ever want to go back to construction, but I love architecture
Mm-hmm.
deeply. I deeply love architecture, and I'd like to find a way to, be involved in that somehow. Like, let's say that suddenly I did a launch and my launch made me $100 million. I would probably look for ways to get involved with like sustainable architecture and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something that I think would be very, very gratifying.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Are you still looking at barn dominiums?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are fascinating to me. Like prefabricated, like the high quality prefab houses, that stuff is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do, what I think would be really neat?
What's that?
Like get like 40 or 80 or 100 acres out in the desert and put like a whole little, call it I don't know, like a campsite, I guess, where you did like little airstreams, but the airstream was like on a little plot where you had like an outdoor bath and nice decking, stuff like that. This is where my mind goes in its free time. Like, oh, wouldn't that be fun to have like these air.
That kind of reminds me of this idea. This friend of mine that used to work in corporate with me, we were both all about like living cheaply so that we could travel all over the place and do whatever we wanted.
Yeah.
And we had this idea to make a trailer park, except it would be like high end. You couldn't have a felony and live there. You could not be a registered sex offender and live there.
Right.
And, which I believe causes a lot of the problems that come along with trailer parks.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were going to have like a community pool, a gym, a tornado shelter, which is very important here in the Midwest because tornadoes love trailers. And that your Airstream community there totally reminds me of our trailer park dream.
I think that would be hilariously awesome. Like a super upscale trailer park.
Yeah, and then you just like buy a double wide and pay cash for it and you're done. Then you just have your lot rent or whatever, and you could make all the money you want and have your place and go do whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, let's put that on the bulletin board.
High-end tabletop.
Love it.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, you've mentioned your book a few times here, and I have read your book twice because I'm a rereader. So I read like a fun book all the time. And Manny's book is kind of a combination of fun and inspirational, to see somebody go from, a terrible point of being addicted to drugs and not being very productive to now trying to figure out what he can do to be productive because he's financially stable. That's an awesome leap to take, and it's a very entertaining book also. So I highly recommend that you check that out too. I got it on Kindle, but you can get it in hardback also, right? Or paperback?
Yeah, paperback. I think there's hardback available. There used to be.
I'm going to let you say what it's called because I'm not sure that I pronounced that one word correctly.
It's called The Tao of the Unbreakable Man, and it's spelled T-A-O. Okay. If you're into Eastern philosophy, Eastern mysticism, you'll know what the Tao is. But if you're not, you won't. So it's T-A-O, The Tao of the Unbreakable Man.
Yeah, it's a good book. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll be inspired.
That's right. That's literally the goal. That was literally the goal.
All right. Well, thank you, Manny, for being my first guest on what is being loosely called Wednesdays with the Oddball Copywriter.
Love it.
I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that or not, so I haven't made any graphics or anything.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have you back again to talk about success one of these weeks.
All right.
All right. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.